and later on wrote a thesis on neural networks. And that was my first touch point with what we call today AI, and it's still following the same principles. So that was in 1996, way before it all became a big hype. And in fact, it was easier like 10 years ago, because there the hype on AI just took off. And I remember it was great if, for example, a device could tell you what it sees on a digital image. Like it started with, there's an apple, and the AI could tell you this is an apple, and people were freaking out on this. And there's a lot to gain from startups for the big companies, and at the same time, it's really a challenge, the culture, but also the communication, and I would even say the mutual understanding is difficult.
Imagine the year 1996. The internet exists, but only for researchers and geeks. .com wasn't known to anyone, and Sam Altman just turned 11. Amazon doesn't exist, neither does Google. Microsoft is a well-established company, mostly known for its successful product Windows 95. At the same time, a mathematics student writes his thesis about neural networks. You think this was early? You think this was the beginning of AI? Well, not really. It was already the second phase of the AI evolution. AI is much older than you and I might think. And also, that means it is much more established than we think today. Welcome to another episode of the Employee Experience Labs podcast from the Munich Podcast Studios. Employee Experience Labs podcasts are about HR tech, employee experience, shared services, and other interesting topics around HR in the workplace. We are currently running 2 different seasons at the same time because they intersect and influence each other. And I believe today you will really hear this influence across. One season is about startups and young enterprise tech companies. The other season is about AI. Today, we focus mainly around the startup universe and how startups and big enterprise can actually benefit from each other and work better. But as my introduction already alluded to, we will also deep dive into AI and Gen AI, how it is today. I had the pleasure to talk to Wolfgang Hauner, an experienced technology and AI expert. Wolfgang is a long-standing AI veteran and data enthusiast. He has already in the 90s researched about neural networks and wrote his diploma thesis about it. Talking to someone that is already that long in this business is rare and the first for me in this podcast series. Wolfgang and I are diving deep, of course, also into AI and Gen AI, but we will go back to the infancy states and why they matter as well. But this is not where we stop. Wolfgang has for a long time lived the enterprise life in big global companies, but recently switched to the startup life. Why he did this, what he has learned, but also what recommendations he has for both small startup and big enterprise to better collaborate and benefit from one another is an interesting theme we will explore. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Let's get going with Wolfgang from Link Intelligence. Wolfgang, good morning. It's great to have you here. It's really fantastic that you make the time to come and to join my podcast. It's really great to have you. How are you today?
Actually feeling great. Had a lovely weekend. The weather was fantastic. I did some sports outdoors, so really doing well.
Oh, that's
I hope
fantastic.
the same is true for you. So
Thank
good
you. Yes,
morning,
it is. I
Volker.
unfortunately didn't do any sports. I had a birthday party of my son that I had to attend to. So I had a couple of 8-year-olds that I needed to keep alive, but also not destroying the house. But it was good. It was good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Wolfgang, it's great to have you. You are someone that has seen a lot in your past experience, and you still have a very interesting route to go. And I'm really excited to talk to you about this today. But before we go there, Wolfgang, tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Wolfgang? What's your background? What did you study, and what experiences did bring you where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely happy to do so. So I started many years ago to study mathematics, which was quite a challenge because it's not what you learned in maths in school, which I thought it just is the same,
Yeah.
but more. No, it's really a different way of thinking what you learn there, and this is really challenging in particular in the beginning. And later in my studies, I specialized on applied statistics, which I really liked and still do. And later on, wrote a thesis on neural networks. And
Oh,
yeah, that was my first touch point with what we call today AI,
AI.
and it's
Yeah.
still following the same principles. So that was in 1996, way before
Wow.
it all became a big hype.
Amazing.
But it was already the second phase of AI, if you wish, because the roots really go back to the 1950s and
Yeah.
60s, where all the concepts were written, the good ones. And in the mid 90s, the PCs were strong enough to at least calculate some smaller nets.
Yeah.
And this was already exciting. So the
Amazing.
results in my thesis were also, in a way, striking because the methods were so superior to the classical statistical approaches,
Yeah.
and it could already demonstrate the power of neural networks,
Wow.
even if the limitations we had in the compute space.
Amazing.
Then I found my way into consulting. I started with BCG. From there, went on in insurance, which most of mathematicians end up somehow. I really liked it. I started with a reinsurer, which later on was bought by Swiss Re. But it was a smaller company, just 1,000 employees. Fantastic to start with because you could really learn what the company
Yeah.
was doing end to end. And
Yeah.
I still benefit from this knowledge I gained there
Yeah.
many years ago.
Yeah.
Then later on joined again a consulting company called MSG, which developed a reinsurance core system based on SAP, which
Very
I, in the due course, implemented over 5 years at
Wow.
Munich Re.
Yeah.
And that is how I ended up at Munich Re because I was there 5 years as a consultant. Then they asked me if I want to stay.
Yeah.
And I did and never regretted this. It was really the fundament of a great career there. Started as a head of global reporting, built a data warehouse on global scale.
Yeah. Amazing.
Also defined all the processes and the governance around reporting. Then I did that for 8 years, a little bit too long maybe. But then analytics came in the game again.
Yeah.
And this was bringing me back to my roots from university. So I was really excited. I started building the first data analytics team for Munich Re.
Very cool.
Hired the first data scientists.
Yeah.
That again quickly became a success because there were really great people coming to the company at that time. And then we were doing more and more use cases. In the end, I became their first group chief data officer because it was not only about analytics. Quickly, people understood you need to have all the data under control. And that I did for quite a while and probably could still be doing it if not a board member in Allianz crossed my path and said, hey, can you do the same thing over there at Allianz? And that was at that time, again, a challenge I was up for because I've been doing a lot of work in reinsurance, but also wanted to know what it really is like to work in one of the largest primary insurance companies and groups. So I joined Allianz to set up this data analytics function for them, also globally. And there was a huge challenge, which I initially had underestimated because while Munich Re and Allianz are both huge companies, the complexity at Allianz is even way higher. So it took me quite a while to get familiar with all the organization, who does what, who's responsible for what. And whenever I thought I now get it, then people had changed again and I started all over. So that was a constant learning. That was a great time also building up the team, building up the capabilities there. And that journey then came to an end of last year. where I had decided in really good faith to leave the company because there was a change in strategy and also change in organization. So I said, okay, this is a natural breakpoint for myself to reflect what will I do. I really took some time off to think about what could be the next step. Do I join another insurance company or not? And I decided to go back to consulting, but this time, together with a partner, we established our own company, which means I became an entrepreneur for the first time in my life, a real entrepreneur. And this was something I never had a chance to do so far. And it's really exciting. It's so many things you learn there. And also the way you work is again different. And also it feels great not to have a boss anymore. That's the first time in my life where I have that. Of course, it requires some sort of discipline. But it's really great, to organize your own days and weeks and win clients for projects, hire people. So it's really a challenge which I'm up to, but also it's exciting. And in contrast to those huge groups, you really can see the progress. It's almost like doing something physical. We buy new desks for new employees. We buy them laptops and all that. That's work you do yourself, so it's quite rewarding because you see what's happening. In the end of the day, you screw together a desk with the new employee and put a laptop on top, and they make it possible that they can work.
Amazing. Wolfgang, that already lines out so many reasons why I'm so happy to chat to you today. It's you basically are one of the early ones in the Today AI race, right? With your thesis and everything that you did with it and that came afterwards. That is amazing. But before going to the topic of AI, you're also only the second person I'm talking to in my podcast series that has seen both big enterprise as well as the startup world. The other one, Chris, did it the other way around, right? He started from the startup and was then acquired by a company and stays there. You did it the other way around. What made you do this? What made you decide that you want to do this from the ground up? You've talked already about what is great about it, not having a boss and seeing everything. But what made you decide going for that jump?
Yeah, well, that's exactly the fact that I've been to large companies more or less all of my professional life. Maybe except the consulting companies where you also were just working in a project mode. So there were large companies as well, but it didn't feel large. But most of my professional life, I was just part of huge organizations with all the processes, all the politics that you're exposed to there. And it's quite natural, and probably it's not even limited to insurance. It probably would have been in any industry the case.
I can tell you, yes.
I worked with lots of startups on my way. So the world of startups is not entirely new, but I never knew what it feels like working in a startup myself. And as I said, I had this natural breakpoint after leaving Allianz, and I really took some time to reflect on this. And I said, well, at least it's something I never have tried out. So I don't know if I will do this until I retire. I can't tell now. At the moment, it feels great. I don't know if it feels great in 2 years still. I hope so, but you never know. This is.
But it also doesn't matter, right? As long as you enjoy it today, just go with it, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, I just wanted to have that experience. Similar that back then when I left Munich Re, I wanted to learn what it's like to be in a large primary insurance company because I knew reinsurance inside out. So I wanted to have that experience. I got the chance. And it was similar in this case because a friend of mine put me in contact with my now business partner with the company, and he just shared with me, look, this guy's he just founded a company on his own. He just started, and he's looking for another partner because he doesn't want to be alone in that
journey.
This journey. And so we met for lunch just casually and had an exchange. And the more we talked, the more I got interested in doing this and becoming an entrepreneur. So he offered me the opportunity just to join as a 50% partner to really do this together.
Oh.
So we share the company entirely and really act as equal partners, which I also like because it's you're not out there alone. We always have somebody who you can rely on, and at the same time, it gives you so many degrees of freedom to act and to do things. That's what I thought is really great to experience now.
Amazing.
And the other thing is also looking a little bit ahead. If I still would be an entrepreneur in something between 5 and 10 years, it would also offer me a gradual way into retirement, a self-determined way to do that. If I would still be with a huge corporation, usually if you get to close to the age of 60 one day, what you get is the projects that nobody else wants.
It's basically do you get the sign? Do you understand it?
Yeah, exactly. Or you get assigned some tasks which
no one else wants.
Exactly, which is super boring, or where they say, okay, this old guy can't do any harm anymore, so let's put him there. And I've seen it many times happening. So this is something I realized in my younger years as well, and I always thought I don't want to end up like this. To me, this was kind of a bad experience and I felt sorry for those persons where I've seen that. And I just realized that this is an opportunity where I can have control over the path towards retirement when this will be coming. And it's still some years to go, and I still have lots of energy to move ahead some projects and to do new things, but the day will come, hopefully. It only doesn't come if you die in advance, which I don't hope. So, and then I can do it with my own control or at my own pace. And I don't know what it will feel like if you're close to 60. If I still have so much energy, I will just continue working. But if there may be grandchildren around, you may just decide to work less or stop working completely.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. And unfortunately, I've also seen this many times, which means like I still need to start thinking about this myself further. But hey, let's not go there. Before continuing with some of the questions, Wolfgang, tell us, what's the name of the company and what business are you in?
So the company is called Link Intelligence, and the business is consulting for all data-related topics, starting from data management, business intelligence, dashboarding, setting up data warehouses, the classical work. Plus, we do all of the new data analytics, advanced analytics stuff, AI. We have projects going on already with Gen AI, which is a big and hot topic. And it's super powerful. And at the same time, it's not the answer to everything. So we still do really the classical data management work, which in most projects means 80% of the capacity goes there. Because if the data is not well under control, also the outcome of AI will be a poor one.
Exactly. Ah, fantastic. Let's get there a bit later, as I said, in the AI topic. There's one thing that I think is really good to get from you. There's when you think about big enterprise, and maybe you have experienced the same. Big enterprise are neither finding or not looking very often at startups to solve their problems or to get creative ideas. Or even when they find startups, it seems difficult to collaborate between the big enterprise and the startup mentality. There's difference in culture, speed, agility that I have seen. How do you see that? Have you seen that in the past? And if so, what can be done to overcome it?
Mhm. Yeah, very good point, Volker. So I think there's lots to gain from startups
Yeah.
for the big companies. And at the same time, it's really a challenge because, as you mentioned, the culture, but also the communication, and I would even say the mutual understanding is difficult.
Yeah.
So, and that's why it's so rewarding for me to see the other side, i.e., the startup side now.
Yeah.
While you have lots of degrees of freedom, you can experiment, you can build up knowledge
Yeah.
about things very quickly.
Yeah.
You do this in a way that always can be a little bit risky, but as a small startup, you don't have to care so much.
Not much to lose.
Yeah, exactly. So you can accept failure to a certain degree, while this is something it would always hit big corporations, in particular if it's something that could potentially damage their reputation. This is something both sides need to be aware of. And if now a startup would engage with a huge corporation, you need to be much more prepared and careful not to do something that could harm them. And the other thing is that large corporations usually are slow because of complex and bureaucratic processes, but that also makes it difficult for startups because you cannot wait half a year until some money flows. Yeah, then you will be bankrupt.
You stop.
Exactly, but easily with working with large companies, that's the case. Yeah, because if it takes some time until they do an RFI, RFP, send out some contracts, and even if you get them the contract, until you can send an invoice, it's another 90 days, and until they pay, it's another 90 days. So, and you see, this is kind of deadly for startups because usually you don't have millions on the bank account and say, "Oh, I don't care, the money will come later." The big players, of course, can afford that and can do it, but the small ones can't. So, and that is something I would like to share with the large corporations, with my former employers, to be more mindful of what is the situation of the partners you work with, and not to bring them into trouble. And it works both ways. So the startups need to understand much more what are the risks the large players face, and to do anything not to run into those risks, while the large corporations should a little bit understand the situation the startups are in. And then it can work quite well. So, for example, if you have, as a large corporation, a lean procurement process for small companies, where you also say, okay, when we get the invoice, within a week we pay it simply. That would be a big improvement in that relationship, because then the startups say, okay, if they pay quicker, we can invest the money, we can hire new people with that and grow simply. So, and at the same time, if the large players help some with the startups with some risk framework, they apply themselves to make that more transparent. What are those risks? It would help big time. So I think that there needs to be some more learning opportunities on both sides. Yeah, mutual learning. And we also did that in a way, but probably not good enough. When I was still working at Munich Re, we had many interactions with startups, and also I had quite some projects with startups myself. Some of them worked quite well, and it was not about the ultimate productive solution we got there, but it gave us some great insights on does the approach work?
It's a test
Can we
and
get
learns,
something
right?
out of it? Yeah. And that already was quite valuable. And if I would be back at a large corporation, this is certainly something I would again pick up, scan the market for some interesting startups. And this is also a challenge for large corporations, I have to admit, because there are thousands of startups out there. So which one are the good ones you want to play with?
Yeah.
That's really difficult to find them, to identify them.
Yeah.
And there, the large corporations have some scouts, for example, that do exactly just this, to scan the market, to understand who can bring value. But again, it's like finding the needle in the haystack.
And there are not many out there who actually try to find
thousands,
it.
there are thousands of AI startups because everyone finishing university now can go and establish a startup, which is great, and people should do it even more. On the other hand, if there are so many out there, how do you differentiate? How do you bring something that others haven't done 100 times before? This becomes much more challenging.
Yeah.
And it was, in fact, it was easier like 10 years ago because there the hype on AI just took off, and I remember it was great if, for example, a device could tell you what it sees on a digital image. Like it started with, oh, there's an apple, and the AI could tell you this is an apple, and people were freaking out on this. Today, this is a super commodity. Every app can do it because there's standard functionalities for such things, and so it's the expectations of people towards AI solutions are way, way higher than they used to be, like even 5 years ago.
Yeah. Absolutely. There are two things, Wolfgang, that I find interesting. The one is like really both sides need to listen better to one another to understand the situation and to figure out how they can find a way to it. And what I've seen is big companies, particularly, they need to basically establish a separate process, a separate governance, a separate view on how to engage with startups so that they can make use of that. And then it's the question of not only how do we collaborate, but what can we learn from each other, right? Because as you said,
exactly.
it's not necessarily about scaling a solution and say, like, we implement this for the whole company globally. It's for both sides, for the startup as well, also the learning, right? What can you gain as a learning from a startup perspective to make an even better product? And if you then get it paid because the company that you work with is trying this out, that's fantastic as well. But
Absolutely.
You already went very strong into the AI topic, and I think I want to go there really, because this is where you, with your background, have seen so much and have experienced so much. So let me start with a question, Wolfgang. What you see today, are you surprised about it, or is it like, yeah, that's the natural consequence that we are where we are? When I see everything from 96 to today.
No, I'm not surprised at all. Actually, I'm quite happy that finally there is this major breakthrough of the technology, because I always believed in the conceptual part of it. So when you understand kind of the mechanics, it's working. Of course, there are also dangers and pitfalls you can tap into, though it's not all without risks. But none of the technologies is without risk. I always keep saying, even a hammer, the hammer is made to put a nail in the wall. But if you hit somebody on the head, it's bad. You could even kill someone with a hammer. But that's not the problem of the hammer. It's the problem of the user, and it's the same with the AI. But to your question, no, I kind of expected that this becomes a major breakthrough, and even before ChatGPT was becoming such a hype in early 23. Because the technologies were already mature. So those large language models, they were out there 3-4 years before the hype of ChatGPT. So the experts in that field, they were already using that. Maybe not with that great precision, or not with that super large models like we see today. but it worked already in some more narrow scenarios, and it was used in the background for some of the chatbots already. It was used for image processing, image generation already. So those early signs were out there,
Yeah.
and if you were actively working in that field, it was not at all a surprise that those things were just coming to the world overall.
Very
So
interesting.
that I kind of expected.
Yeah.
And also what is happening right now, that people are becoming more aware, more mindful of what to use for which use case
Yeah.
again. Because those super large models, they cost a lot of money, a lot of
Yes.
compute power.
Yes.
It's also a topic for the energy consumption. So there's already a term out there, green AI. So how can you reduce energy consumption of those models? How can you make them leaner, more efficient again? Yeah, this is becoming a big topic already. And with that, it's getting back to, in a way, to the roots. So what is AI for? It's there to have computers perform tasks that require some sort of intelligent behavior.
Yeah.
And not all of those tasks would require that.
No.
So if there's a pure rule-based process, it's totally fine if that continues to be a rule-based process. And if you say if A follows B follows C, you can just continue, let a computer do that.
Automating
There's
it.
no way why you would replace that by AI. However, there are many tasks, in particular for us knowledge workers, where AI can be of great help and make you much more efficient, support you. And this is what we see now big time, that efficiency of knowledge worker is getting increased, maybe even to the degree that some jobs will no longer exist or become redundant. It's similar with this vision of autonomous driving.
Yeah.
If it really happens and becomes full autonomous, you don't need taxi drivers anymore and truck drivers. But we're not there yet. And so with AI, it's similar. So it happens gradually and continuously, but people should understand what it means for mankind, but also for you individually. Yeah, will your job be affected? And in many ways, it will be.
Yeah.
Not necessarily making your job redundant, but you need to adapt, like all the time.
Yeah.
If you have now physical machines to dig a hole, like a big caterpillar. If you need to dig a big hole, a caterpillar is a good idea. You don't want to do this by hand anymore. If it's just a small hole, you may do this still on your own.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And it's the same thing. If you have big tasks to solve, machines are a great thing.
Yeah.
And this is how I would view the AI trend. And those models will be refined in the future.
Yeah.
As I said, the trend is even now to have that again in leaner versions, more efficient versions. Also bringing maybe again AI components to end user devices. What we also see now, Apple just released a version, and I think the others will also follow. That you again will move from these huge multi-billion parameter models to smaller ones that run on local machines again. And while the big models may also still continue, and this is a question of when will this general AI kick in, so that there is a machine that is at the level of humans or even beyond. That will be an interesting one. When will it happen? It's more the question of when it will happen, not if it will happen.
Interesting. Wolfgang, there are many things in there. The first one that I've also discussed with a few others already, and would be good to get your view. Is Gen AI a product or is it a feature? Meaning, will it be a solution that basically makes certain tasks in existing products more efficient, effective, and automating versus manual? Or will you have Gen AI that is as a product taking care of different kinds of activities for you, like a personal assistant. Where do you see it? Is it more a feature or more a product?
Mhm. Well, I think it will be both, but maybe not the same version of it. What we see already that, in particular, the hyperscalers include those capabilities in their product. So you can create PowerPoint slides automatically. You can write emails automatically, and the user just refines it or makes a quality check and does some tweaks here and there to make it really fit to what you want. This is the efficiency case. But then you will also see complete AI solutions for certain tasks in the future. And that is where it again becomes a product in itself.
Yeah. Do you have an example where this could happen?
Well, in the insurance industry, there are, for example, use cases in claim settlement of car damages. And this already works AI supported. So there's a solution in the market where the user can just walk around the damaged car with the camera of the smartphone on, uploads this small video file, and then the AI detects the damage and estimates the repair costs. And if this is like not a if it's a total damage, then you get paid the value of the car. And this would be an easy case. Or if it's minor damages, you can just go for a cash settlement, for example, and say the AI projects this is like 1,500 euro. If you accept this, you can just settle the claim and it's done. So this solution
product,
already
no
exists.
human intervention anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So and you can just give your customer the choice of whether they want to accept this offer, or they still can go to the garage and have the car repaired, and then it costs what it costs. This is then anyway the trivial case. And this process already exists, AI supported, but it will be improved again gradually. Yeah, the AI will be more precise. It will end up with much more precise cost estimates than it does today. And that may be even expanded to other insurance use cases. I'm just talking about insurance because I spent almost all of my professional life there. But this is, you could imagine like after a flood, you just go through the flooded building or once the water is out there and just scan it. Maybe that will change the process of loss adjusters. Usually they have to come on site and see really what is the damage, how much is damaged of a house. That could be, today it's still too complex, but that could be one day replaced by just a video sequence and then make it again easier for the customer.
Great.
And that can be use cases going forward. But I'm sure this is true for many, many other industries. So in manufacturing, I can imagine thousands of use cases, also in retail, to make, for example, advertising is a big business. But if you realize those algorithms that made, for example, Amazon great or Google great, those algorithms seem a little bit aged. Once you're used to it, you think, well, those recommendations, they could be more precise. They could be more to what I really would be up to buy and where my interests are. And I think that will be also changed again. Also for the benefit of not just of the company, but also of the end user, customer. Because you don't want to be spammed with tons of emails and messages and everything. You want the advertisement that is relevant for you. Because then you're really interested and it becomes even a positive thing. Today, people are just annoyed by all the spam.
Yes, they are.
And there I assume that will become much more precise going forward.
Very interesting. You already, mentioned one of the potential barriers to get to that, which is costs, like may it be the energy costs or may it be the cost to the chips, right? Because there's currently a bit of a monopoly going on. And this is what I also see today. There's a gap between the costs to develop and implement AI solution versus the benefits, the payback it gets. And particularly for companies, this gap needs to be closed, right? You cannot just invest in something without a proper return. How do you see this today? Are we already at the point where there is the break even of the investment versus the value? How do we get to that break even?
So I would say where there is a clear use case of AI, the return of investment is there definitely, and also in a reasonable time span. So this is what I've been doing in my professional life already with more specific models in the past, smaller ones, not talking about Gen AI here. And it was paying off because it was helping automizing certain tasks or raising the quality of certain tasks, which you could not have done in a similar way through human labor. So there was already a improvement, and there was qualitative and quantitative. So there were many cases where you could really also measure the financial impact of AI, of the use of AI. So, and in those use cases, AI will play a big role going forward, and it does already. For those more broader use cases, where you have business models that are similar to the early days of the internet, where people think, oh, it must be all free. We will see that there will be a change, because in a way you always have to pay. You either pay directly money, or you pay with your data or insights of sharing what you do in your life. And you can say you don't care, then it's fine. You get rewarded for that by some benefits you may get. But I would say, yes, there is definitely a commercial orientation of AI, and it's already there. So definitely there will be a payback. Of course, if the huge investments in some areas are all paying back, I don't know. I have that crystal ball, but this is always like in the big companies, you have to do a certain bet. Like Facebook did it when they transformed themselves into Meta.
Well, that did not pay
all
off.
about the hype about the metaverse. This is yet to be proven. The metaverse or metaverses are out there, but it by far did not justify the hype yet. Maybe it's still coming.
I don't think so.
Well, sometimes you have to be patient.
That's true.
The people they have higher expectations how quick things should come, but then in the long run, if you look backwards, you say, "Wow, actually a lot did happen." And then similar with now AI, it may come as a breakthrough in a few years. Still, I don't know. Again, I don't have that crystal ball, but it could still happen. And with AI, I would say we are even past that point, though. People know that the investment can go wrong, but usually, if the business case is a solid one, it will pay back. And those super expensive models that get created, it's for the big companies to think about the commercial terms. The cloud providers, they will factor it in their cloud products, and with the cloud consumption, they will again make their money. If that is a good business case for them, However, if a competitor has a superior product and your versions are not getting used, then the investment is lost. This is normal economic
that's true.
Behavior in a way.
Yeah, that's true. I've just recently read a McKinsey study. It talked mainly about Gen AI, but also a bit about AI. And what I saw there, I'm mainly focused on HR departments. What I saw there is that from the respondents to the survey, only 12% of companies use Gen AI in their HR departments actively at least one case. When I was reading this, I was thinking, similar like you were saying, probably everyone uses AI already. Maybe they don't even know that they're using it, but Gen AI, not yet so many. From your background, from your experience and what you know, would you say companies that don't yet use Gen AI, at least for experimentation, are late, or is it the right time to start now, or is it a bit too early still? What do you think, particularly when you think about Gen AI?
Well, I would say almost everyone is using it now already. You're just not aware of it. If you are, for example, a Microsoft customer and you use some of their Azure products, AI is built in there. So this auto completion, for example, in writing emails or typing, even in documents, it has an AI background. So the system just calculates at your speed of typing the probability what will be the next words or how to finish the sentence. And if you like that way of writing, you just press a key and then it almost writes you the entire email or a document. So that's why I think everyone is already in a way using AI, or almost everyone. And that will come again in HR. People need to understand the use cases, and they can be different ones. It can be in large companies, translation tasks, for example. So machine translation is now really in an excellent quality. So labor contracts, for example, you can just create them automatically, even in different languages, and then have an expert read over them finally again, but you don't have to do this all manually. And that way you will increase the efficiency. Also, certain queries you may have towards your HR data. There are great solutions out there which will make it much easier to interact with your own data. Like you can, with human language, just ask questions to your expert systems. Let's say, how many data scientists work in my company? That would be a question. And the system would now try to understand what qualifies to be a data scientist. And there is not a narrow definition of that job title even. So it would generate you maybe different answers, like in the narrow sense, having a background in statistics and computer science, you have 50 people in your company. But if you take a broader definition of the data scientist, you may have 150 people, and these are the following qualifications or job specs that are there in the background. And with that, you may get to a better understanding of the situation. And today, it's really the question would be answered based on the definition that gets applied. So if you just look for statisticians and computer scientists, that may give you not the right answer to this question, how many data scientists do you have?
And Wolfgang, this is a very good point. As much as I personally love these kind of functionalities, the discussion is out there about bias, right? What does the AI give to you as the result? There's, as you say, there's the one thing. It's like, okay, data scientist. I search who has data scientists somewhere in their CV, whatever, and you bring it back. But then there's the wider one, where particularly Gen AI can help you with. And the topic around bias is also a one around liability that I find very interesting from two angles here. From one angle, it is liability for startups, right? Big companies never want to accept risk. Maybe even insurance companies are very risk averse. I don't know, you tell me. But big companies are very risk averse, and accepting liability for something is difficult. So they always try to put liability on their vendors, on their partners. For startups, accepting liability when it comes to this use case, for example, a use case that involves employees or candidates can be risky because of how you use the AI, how you have bias, you can put into court because of these things. How do you see and think about liability perspective when it comes to startups as well as when it comes to AI?
Yeah. So first, addressing your question towards bias, because the bias comes from the underlying data, not from the AI methodology. That needs to be understood. So if, for example, in your data set, there is only references to white old men, then of course the system can only learn about white old men, and the response will always be white old men. So that's just by the data you expose the machine to. And this is where you need mindful people, and there are also some methods to test on that bias. But again, also with limitations. So those systems can only see the universe they're getting exposed to. And also it goes the other way around. If you kind of force your systems to come up with the perfect diversity, and you force it always to come up with a diverse answer, it may fail big time if the response in particular is just a dedicated group within your population. So you sometimes want to target a certain group, like female workers under the age of 30 years. But if you then force your system to come up with a diverse range, then of course there would show up males that are 60-year-old. And so in both directions, you have to be mindful what should be the results of what you're looking for, and also what is the data you feed into your system. And there only smart people can help. And also, again, they can be supported by some smart functionality on the bias topic. But it's understood, it's out there. And also we humans are not bias-free. We are biased in each of our decision every day, 100 times. What kind of milk do you buy, or what kind of bread do you eat? There's a bias in that, in all of those simple questions. So you just need to be mindful when you develop those solutions. And to the question of the liability, yes, this is definitely something that is important. And again, even startups may be a good approach to liability, because in the end, if you have experts understanding the topic, the risk of something goes wrong is less. And also in terms of the ultimate risks, i.e. you ruin the company. If you ruin a startup with 5 people, it's bad for 5 people, yes, and nobody wants that. But in the end, it just costs 5 jobs, and maybe they start all over again in the next company. If you ruin a company with 100,000 people, that is really super bad, because you cannot overnight build up a new company with 100,000 people. And that's why also taking startups as an opportunity for limited experiments may be a good idea also for the large corporations.
Thank you. Wolfgang, I have two last questions. You are an expert in this field for quite some time. And, as we discussed in the beginning, you see the line from the early days to today of what AI and Gen AI can do. When you continue this line, let's say 5 years, where would you say, where are we with AI and Gen AI? Will we have the artificial general intelligence, or will AI be, like email today, everyone will use it, everyone knows how to use it? What do you see in 5 years?
Well, definitely AI will become commodity in many day-to-day processes. So, and already people don't even realize that AI is working in the background, like in smart navigation systems today. Nobody's thinking about this. You want to get from A to B in the fastest way and in a safe way. So this will continue, and it will just be built into more and more products, functionalities, processes. If in 5 years we will already have the general artificial intelligence, I don't know. Again, I don't have that crystal ball. I don't know how quickly that will come, but I'm convinced it will come one day, because the storage prices for data getting
Yeah.
still cheaper and cheaper, and the compute price also goes down thanks to the big usage of cloud computing. So for me, this is not a question if, but just when. But if this is 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, or 100 years, I don't know that.
Thank you. Let's not go so far. Thanks, Wolfgang. But let's look back at today. When you think about today, for my final question, what do you see as the top 3 biggest challenges of today when you think about Gen AI, and for my friends in the audience, HR, and how would you approach them?
Well, HR, I would say it will still, as it's in the name, it will be a human activity.
Yeah.
So here, AI can only help and kind of augment the work of HR professionals. But you should have an open attitude towards the technology to have that and embrace the trend, I would say. But let not AI rule your activities. So be also critical towards the outputs of AI, and always think, yeah, but is it really true? And not blindly trust the systems. Yeah, it can be of great help, but one still needs to keep a critical mind to it.
Thank you, Wolfgang. I think these are good words to end our conversation. Be open, but be critical to it. There's a lot to come. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think there's a lot in there. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, you're welcome. Also wishing you a great day.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye,
Wolfgang.
Volker.